I can get this running again, I just need a snack. They laughed at him until they saw it happen. The hot steam rose from the open hood as Michael Thompson nervously tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. His most important meeting of the year was starting in 2 hours, and there he was, stopped in the middle of Interstate 95 with the car smoking. That's when the boy appeared. He couldn't have been more than 9 years old, barefoot, with a brown t-shirt full of holes and hands dirty with oil. He pointed to the engine and said in a thin but determined voice, "I can get this running again, sir. I just need a snack." Michael looked at his partner, Robert Wilson, who was on the phone trying to call a tow truck. The two men exchanged glances and started to laugh. "Look at this, Michael," said Robert, hanging up his cell phone. "The little kid here wants to fix our Cadillac." "How old are you, kid?" asked Michael, still laughing. 8? 9? You can barely reach the engine." The boy wasn't intimidated. He walked to the front of the car and touched the hot hood with the palm of his small hand, as if he was feeling something the adults couldn't perceive. "9 years old, sir, but I know what's happening here." Robert laughed even louder. "Oh yeah, then tell me, Dr. Mechanic, what's wrong with our $200,000 car?" The boy took a deep breath and started to explain, pointing to different parts of the engine. "You're losing water from the radiator. See this stain underneath? And there's a strange noise coming from the belt. I bet you felt the car pulling to the right side too." Michael's smile faded a little. Indeed, the car had pulled to the right during the trip. "Just luck," murmured Robert. "Anyone can see there's water on the ground." "And the temperature is rising because the thermostat valve is stuck," continued the boy, ignoring the comment. "That's why steam is only coming out from one side." Now the two businessmen fell silent. That information was too specific to be a guess. "All right, kid," said Michael, crossing his arms. "Let's say you really know. How did a kid your age learn these things?" The sparkle in the boy's eye dimmed a little. "My grandpa taught me. He was a mechanic, worked at a big shop until he passed." "Passed?" asked Robert. "He's not here anymore," replied the boy, lowering his head. "Now it's just me and my grandma, and she's sick." Michael and Robert exchanged looks. The situation was getting awkward, but they needed to solve the car problem. "Listen here, kid," said Michael, taking out his wallet. "I'll give you $20 to disappear from here. We already called a tow truck and—" "I don't want money," interrupted the boy. "I just want a snack, and I can fix this in half an hour." Robert laughed again, but now with a crueler tone. "Half an hour? You can barely see inside the engine. Get out of here, kid, before we call someone to pick you up." The boy looked firmly at the two men. "You don't believe me because I'm small and dirty, but my grandpa always said, it's not the size of the hands that matters, it's what's in the head." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Michael sighed, looking at his watch. The tow truck was taking too long and the meeting was getting closer. "All right," he said, "I'll make a bet with you. If you can at least figure out what's really wrong, not only will I give you the snack, but I'll pay you $100. The boy's eyes lit up. "And if I can fix it?" "If you can fix it," said Robert, picking up his phone to film, "I'll double the bet. But when you can't, you leave here crying and never show up on the highway begging again." The boy extended his dirty hand. "Deal!" Michael and Robert laughed, shaking the small hand. Robert started filming, planning to show the video to his friends later. "What's your name, little mechanic?" asked Michael. Tyler Johnson." "Well then, Tyler Johnson, show us what you can do." Tyler walked over to the car and asked, "Do you have a screwdriver there?" Robert opened the trunk and handed him a basic screwdriver from the toolkit. Tyler held it as if it were a precision instrument. What happened next left the two businessmen speechless. Tyler began to work with impressive skill for someone so young. His small hands moved with precision among the engine components, touching, testing, listening. "Here," he said, pointing to a part. "The thermostat valve is really stuck. And here, look, the belt is worn and misaligned." He continued the diagnosis for a few more minutes, identifying problems that neither Michael nor Robert had any idea existed. "Wow," murmured Michael. "How do you know all this?" "My grandfather taught me that the engine talks to us. Every noise, every vibration, every smell has a meaning, replied Tyler, still working. He said I had a special gift for understanding machines. Tyler managed to make some temporary adjustments with the basic tools he had. After 15 minutes, he asked Michael to start the car. The engine showed signs of life, ran for a few seconds, but died again. "Ah!" shouted Robert, laughing. "I knew it. The little kid can't even get the car to start properly." Tyler wasn't fazed. "I said I could fix it, not that I'd perform miracles without the right parts. I need to replace the thermostat valve and adjust the belt. There's an auto parts store about 2 kilometers from here." "And how much does this miracle part cost?" asked Michael sarcastically. "About $15, 20 at most." Robert looked at Michael. The tow truck still hadn't arrived, and they were desperate to resolve the situation. "All right," said Michael. "Let's go to that store, but if this doesn't work, you'll have to explain to us why we wasted our time." The three got into Robert's car, which had arrived separately for the meeting. During the drive, Tyler stayed quiet in the back seat, looking out the window at the simple houses in the neighborhood. "Where do you live, Tyler?" asked Michael. "There," replied the boy, pointing to a dirt road. "In that little yellow house with Grandma Margaret." Robert looked in the rearview mirror and saw a very simple building with peeling walls and a small yard. "And your grandmother, does she work?" "She can't anymore. She has a heart problem. I take care of her now." "What do you mean you take care of her? You're 9 years old," said Robert. "I fix things for people in the neighborhood. Stoves, refrigerators, irons. Sometimes I earn a little change, sometimes they give me food. It depends." Michael felt a knot in his stomach. He was beginning to understand the boy's situation. At the auto parts store, the clerk's first reaction was to ignore Tyler completely. "How can I help you, gentlemen?" "Actually," said Michael, amused by the situation, "our mechanic here is the one who will tell you what we need." The clerk, a man of about 50 named Frank, looked at Tyler with suspicion. "The boy?" "That's right," said Robert, still filming. "Tell him, Tyler." Tyler approached the counter but could barely see over it. Frank looked at him as if it were a bad joke. "I need a thermostat valve for a 2018 Cadillac Series 3, said Tyler naturally. Frank blinked several times. "Come again?" Tyler repeated, adding more technical details. Frank looked at Michael and Robert, searching for an explanation. "He's serious," said Michael. "The boy knows what he's talking about." Frank, still skeptical, went to get the part from the stockroom. When he returned, he placed the valve on the counter along with other similar parts. "There are 3 models here. Which one is the right one?" Tyler looked at the parts and immediately pointed to the correct one, explaining the differences between them in such detail that Frank was impressed. "How did you learn all this, kid?" "My grandfather was a mechanic. He used to take me to the shop since I was little. He said I was born with a gift for understanding machines." "What was your grandfather's name?" "William Johnson. He worked at Mr. Charlie's shop downtown." Frank's expression changed completely. "Mr. William? You're Mr. William's grandson? Did you know him?" "Of course I knew him. He was the best mechanic in the area, an honest, hard-working man. Such a shame what happened to him." Michael and Robert paid attention. "What happened?" asked Michael. Frank looked at Tyler, hesitant. "Can I tell him, son?" Tyler nodded, but Michael noticed the boy had become tense. Mr. William was unfairly fired from the shop where he had worked for over 20 years. The boss made up that he was stealing parts, but everyone knew it was a lie. Mr. William was as honest as they come. The problem was that he found out the boss was selling used parts as if they were new. "And then?" asked Robert. "Mr. William threatened to report him. The next day, expensive parts showed up in his locker. Obviously, it was a setup, but the boss even called the police. It was a scandal." Tyler's eyes were watery, but he tried to stay strong. "After that," Frank continued, "no one wanted to hire Mr. William anymore. People were scared because of the thief reputation. He spent the last months of his life trying to prove his innocence, but he couldn't. His heart couldn't take so much injustice." A heavy silence filled the shop. Michael felt extremely uncomfortable. "And how are you sure he was innocent?" asked Robert. "Because I worked at the shop too. I saw everything. But back then, I was young, I needed the job, and I was too scared to speak up. To this day, I regret being a coward. Tyler wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Grandpa always said the truth comes out sooner or later. He wasn't angry at anyone, just sad that he couldn't work with what he loved anymore. Michael took out his wallet to pay for the part, but he was visibly shaken. The story was affecting him in a way he hadn't expected. Back at the broken car, Tyler went back to work. This time, with the right part, his hands moved even faster. Michael and Robert watched in silence, processing everything they had heard. "Tyler," said Michael, "how did you learn to be so precise?" "Grandpa took me to the shop since I was 5. He said I had a special way with machines, that I could feel what they were feeling. At first I just watched, but then he started teaching me. And after he passed, I kept practicing on my own. People in the neighborhood started bringing me broken things, first out of pity, then because they saw I could really fix them." Tyler finished installing the valve and adjusting the belt. His hands were even dirtier now, but he worked with impressive concentration. "All done," he said, wiping his hands on his own shirt. "It should work now." Michael turned the key. The engine started immediately and ran smoothly, without any strange noises. "I can't believe it," murmured Robert, stopping the recording. Tyler smiled for the first time since they had met him. "Grandpa always said every machine wants to work well. Sometimes it just needs someone who understands what it's asking for." Michael turned off the engine and started it again. Perfect. He got out of the car and walked over to Tyler, who was putting away the tools. "Tyler, I owe you an apology." "Why, sir?" "For doubting you, for laughing." "Because I thought you were trying to trick us." Robert also approached, visibly embarrassed. "Yeah, kid, you surprised us. A lot." Tyler shrugged. "People always doubt. I'm used to it. The important thing is that your car is working now." Michael took out his wallet and counted $200. "Here's your reward and thank you very much." Tyler looked at the money but didn't reach out. "No, sir. We agreed on a meal. That's all." "What do you mean? You fixed the car, you deserve much more than a meal." "My grandpa always said a man of his word is worth more than a man of money. We agreed on a meal, so it's a meal." Michael and Robert exchanged glances, impressed by the boy's dignity. "Then let's have lunch," said Michael, "but at least let us take you home afterwards so you can see your grandma." Tyler's face lit up. "I'll accept that. It's been a while since I've seen Grandma during the day. Usually when I get home, it's already night." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The three headed to a simple restaurant by the roadside. Tyler had never been to a place like this, with tablecloths and waiters in uniform. He felt out of place, but Michael and Robert made sure to treat him with respect. "Order whatever you want, Tyler," said Michael. The boy looked at the menu, but it was obvious he couldn't read some words properly. He pointed to a picture of a dish. "This one looks good." It was a standard meal with rice, beans, steak, and French fries. Simple food, but Tyler looked at it as if it were a banquet. "Has it been a while since you've had a full meal?" asked Robert. Tyler chewed slowly before answering. "Yesterday, I had a roll that Mrs. Mary gave me. The day before, there was some leftover pasta from Grandma. And today, I hadn't eaten anything yet." The silence that followed was awkward. Michael and Robert barely touched their own food, watching Tyler eat with obvious hunger. "Tyler," said Michael, "tell me something. Why aren't you in school?" The boy stopped eating and sighed. "I stopped going about 4 months ago. Grandma got worse, she couldn't be alone anymore, and I needed to work to buy her medicine." "What grade were you in?" "3rd grade. I really liked studying, especially math and science." Robert shook his head, visibly upset. "That's not right, Tyler. A boy your age should be in school." "I know, sir, but there's no way. Grandma needs me." It was at that moment that an elderly lady at the next table started to cry. She had recognized Tyler and approached their table. "Tyler, my boy, how are you?" The boy stood up and hugged the lady. "Mrs. Betty, are you well?" "I am, thanks to you." She turned to Michael and Robert. "Do you know what this boy did for me last week?" The two shook their heads. My stove stopped working. I didn't have money to call a technician, and I had been eating only bread for 3 days. Tyler showed up at my door, fixed the stove, and even refused to take any payment. Said he just wanted me to look after Grandma Margaret when he wasn't home. Michael felt a lump in his throat. And it wasn't just me, continued Mrs. Betty. He already fixed Mrs. Susan's refrigerator, Mrs. Deborah's iron, and even Mr. Peter's fan. Never charges anything, always asks for the same thing, that they look after his grandma. Other restaurant customers began to pay attention to the conversation. A younger woman approached. "Are you Tyler, the boy who fixes things?" Tyler became shy with the attention. "That's me. I'm Jennifer, Mrs. Deborah's daughter. My mother talks about you all the time. They say you're an angel in her life." Within minutes, a small crowd had gathered around the table. Everyone had similar stories about Tyler. He fixed their appliances for free, always refused payment, and only asked them to help his grandmother when possible. Michael and Robert listened to the stories quietly, growing more impressed and ashamed at the same time. "Tyler," said Michael when the people moved away, "how many families have you helped?" "I don't know, sir. I don't keep count. When someone needs help and I can give it, I do. That's what my grandpa taught me." "And do they all take care of your grandmother?" "Those who can, yes. Mrs. Betty brings her soup sometimes. Mr. Peter checks on her when I'm away. Mrs. Susan lends medicine when we run out. That's how it works in our neighborhood." Robert picked up his phone and started making some calls. He stepped away from the table to speak privately. "Tyler," said Michael, "I want to make you a proposal." The boy's eyes shone with expectation. "What kind of proposal?" "How about if we found someone to take care of your grandmother during the day? That way you could go back to school." Tyler immediately shook his head. "I can't accept charity, sir. My grandpa always said we have to earn things through hard work. It wouldn't be charity, it would be an investment. You have an incredible talent, Tyler. You need to study, graduate, learn even more about mechanics and engineering. Imagine all you could do in the future. But what if you give up? What if you stop helping? Then my grandma would be abandoned and I'd fall behind in school." Michael understood the distrust. After all, how many people must have made promises to that boy and not kept them? "I understand your concern, but what if we make a different agreement?" "What kind of agreement?" "You go back to school and in your free time you work with me. There's a small mechanic shop that's part of my company. You could learn even more and earn a fair wage for your work." Tyler's eyes filled with tears. "You would really do that?" "I would. But there's one condition." "What?" "You have to promise me that you'll graduate, take a technical course, and maybe even go to engineering school. Your talent can't be wasted." Tyler stayed quiet for a long time, processing the proposal. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, but first there's something I need to tell you." "What?" Michael took a deep breath. What he was about to say would be difficult, but necessary. "I knew your grandfather, Tyler." The boy's eyes widened. "How did you know him?" "I was a partner in the shop where he worked. My partner made the day-to-day decisions, but I knew everything that happened there." Tyler's expression changed completely. His eyes, once shining with hope, now showed a mix of anger and sadness. "So you knew my grandpa was innocent?" Michael lowered his head. "I did." "And you did nothing to help him?" "No. And that's the worst thing I've ever done in my life." Tyler stood up from his chair, trembling with emotion. "Why didn't you help him? Why did you let him suffer until he passed?" "Because I was a coward. Because I was afraid to confront my partner. Because I only thought of my own interests." Tyler's tears began to flow freely. "My grandpa cried every night, sir. He said the most painful thing wasn't losing his job. It was losing his dignity. People on the street looked at him like he was a thief." Michael's eyes were also wet. "I know, Tyler, and that's why I've never been able to sleep properly since. Your grandfather was a good, honest man and I failed him." Tyler wiped his eyes and sat back down. "And now you want to help me to clear your conscience?" "Partly, yes. But also because I see him in you. I see the same honesty, the same talent, the same dignity. And this time I won't fail. How can I trust you?" "You can't. Not yet. Trust is earned with time and actions, but I'm willing to prove I've changed. Michael returned to the table, sensing the tension in the air. Did something happen? Robert knew my grandfather, said Tyler, still emotional. Michael looked at Robert, expecting an explanation. I was a partner at the shop where Tyler's grandfather worked, and when he was falsely accused, I didn't defend him. Michael sighed deeply. Man, what a complicated situation. That's why I want to help Tyler now. I need to do what I should have done years ago. Tyler stayed quiet for a moment, looking at his empty plate. Do you really want to help me? We do, they both replied in unison. Then do one thing for me first. Whatever you want, said Robert. Come with me to my house. I want you to apologize to my grandma, on behalf of my grandfather. Robert felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. Tyler, if you really want to make amends, this is what you need to do. My grandma still cries for Grandpa every night. She needs to hear that he was innocent. She needs to know someone acknowledges the injustice done to him. Michael put his hand on Robert's shoulder. He's right. It's the right thing to do. Robert took a deep breath. All right, Tyler, we'll go to your house. The drive was made in silence. Tyler gave directions, while Robert drove with tense hands on the wheel. Michael watched the landscape gradually change. Larger houses gave way to simpler buildings. Paved streets turned into dirt roads. They arrived in front of a small yellow house with peeling paint. There was a small garden in front, well kept despite the limitations. Tyler got out of the car and waited for the two men. She doesn't know you knew Grandpa, said Tyler. I'll tell her when the time comes. They walked to the door. Tyler knocked lightly. Grandma, it's me. I brought some people to meet you. The door opened, revealing a lady with white hair, thin, with a gentle smile despite tired eyes. She must have been about 70 and leaned on an improvised cane. Tyler, my dear grandson, so good you're early today. She looked at Robert and Michael with curiosity, but without suspicion. Grandma, these are Mr. Robert and Mr. Michael. They hired me to fix their car. Oh, how nice. Come in, come in. I'll make some coffee. No need to trouble yourself, Mrs. Robert began. Margaret, and it's no trouble at all. It's been so long since I've had visitors. The house was small, but clean and tidy. In the living room, Robert immediately noticed a prominent photo frame, a smiling middle-aged man in mechanic's overalls. That's my grandfather, said Tyler, following Robert's gaze. Mrs. Margaret brought coffee in mismatched but clean cups. So you've seen my Tyler's talent? He takes after his grandfather. William also had that knack with machines. Robert almost choked on his coffee. Michael gave him an encouraging look. Mrs. Margaret, said Robert, actually, I need to tell you something important. She sat down, intrigued. I knew your husband. We worked at the same shop. The lady's face instantly changed. You knew my William? I did, and that's why I'm here. Tyler moved closer to his grandmother and held her hand. Grandma, Mr. Robert wants to talk to you about what happened to Grandpa. Mrs. Margaret became tense. What is there to say? Everyone has already said what needed to be said. Robert knelt in front of her chair. Mrs. Margaret, your husband was innocent. He never stole anything. Tears began to well up in the lady's eyes. What do you mean? It was all set up by my partner. William found out he was selling used parts as if they were new and was going to report him. That's why they framed him. And you knew about this? Robert lowered his head, ashamed. I knew. And I did nothing to help him. I was a coward, Mrs. Margaret, and I ask your forgiveness for that. Mrs. Margaret stayed silent for a long time, processing the information. Her tears fell silently. My William died believing people thought he was a thief, she finally said. I know, and that torments me every day. Why are you telling me this now? Because I met your grandson today, and I saw in him all the good that was in your husband. And this time I won't fail. I want to help Tyler be everything he can be. Mrs. Margaret looked at her grandson, then at Michael. Tyler, do you believe him? The boy took a deep breath. Grandma, today I saw Mr. Michael change. I saw him truly regret. and I think Grandpa would want us to give him a chance to redeem himself." She stayed quiet for a few more minutes. Finally, she extended a trembling hand and touched Michael's face. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because my William taught me that holding a grudge only hurts ourselves." Michael couldn't hold back his tears. "Thank you very much, Mrs. Margaret. I promise I'll take good care of Tyler." "How?" Michael explained the plan, hiring a caregiver for Mrs. Margaret during the day, allowing Tyler to return to school, and giving him a part-time job at the workshop. "But I have one condition," said Mrs. Margaret. "What?" "I want you to come here every week to talk to me about Tyler. I want to know how he's doing, if he's being treated well. And I want you to tell me stories about my William, about the good things you lived together at the workshop." "I promise that." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 2 weeks later, Michael kept his first promise. He arrived at Mrs. Margaret's house with Carmen, a 55-year-old retired nurse, kind and experienced. Tyler was at school. After years away, he had returned with an impressive desire to learn. The teachers were surprised by his ability to absorb knowledge, especially in math and science. "How is he adapting at school?" Mrs. Margaret asked Michael. "Very well. The teachers say he's making up for lost time at an impressive speed. And at the workshop, Mrs. Margaret, your grandson is a genius." Michael had kept another promise. He bought a small workshop downtown and turned it into a training center. Tyler worked there 3 afternoons a week, always accompanied by an experienced mechanic named Mr. Charlie, coincidentally the same one who had been cheated by Michael's former partner years before. "Mr. Charlie also knew my William," said Mrs. Margaret. "I did, and very well. That boy has the same way his grandfather had with machines. It's like they talk to him." In the first few months, Tyler was shy at the workshop. He observed a lot, asked little, but gradually he gained confidence. Mr. Charlie noticed the boy not only knew how to fix things, but deeply understood how they worked. "Yesterday," Michael told Mrs. Margaret, "a customer came in with a problem none of us could solve. The car made a strange noise, but only under certain conditions. Tyler listened to the engine for 5 minutes and said exactly what the problem was." And was he right? Absolutely right. Mr. Charlie was impressed. He said in 40 years in the profession, he'd never seen someone so young with so much talent. Mrs. Margaret smiled, proud. William would be very happy to see his grandson following in his footsteps. "Mrs. Margaret, can I ask you a personal question?" "You may." "Were you ever angry at Tyler for stopping his studies to take care of you?" She became thoughtful. "Yes, I was. A lot. Not of him, but of the situation. I saw that brilliant boy missing opportunities because of me. But at the same time, I couldn't bear to be alone. And there was no one else in the world but him. And now? Now I see that everything happened for a reason. If Tyler hadn't left home that day, he wouldn't have met you on the highway, and you wouldn't have discovered his talent." Michael agreed. In recent months, he had witnessed impressive transformations not only in Tyler, but in the entire community around them. Michael's workshop had become a landmark in the neighborhood. He hired other young people from the area, creating opportunities for work and learning. Robert, initially skeptical, had become the project's biggest supporter. "You know what impresses me most about Tyler?" said Michael. "What?" "The absence of bitterness. After everything he went through, everything you went through because of the injustice done to your husband, he holds no grudges against anyone. That he learned from his grandfather. William always said that anger is like a poison we take, hoping the other person dies. A year and a half after the encounter on the highway, Tyler was unrecognizable, not physically. He was still the same small boy, but now always clean, well-dressed, well-fed. The transformation was internal. He had become a local minor celebrity. Regional newspapers wrote stories about the mechanic's prodigy boy. A university in New York offered a full scholarship for when he finished high school. But what impressed people the most was his humility. Tyler never forgot where he came from, always helped the neighbors, and maintained a loving relationship with his grandmother. "Michael," said Tyler one afternoon at the workshop, "I want to ask you a favor." "Go ahead." "I want us to organize a tribute for my grandfather." "What kind of tribute?" "A ceremony to clear his name officially, so the whole town knows he was innocent." Michael became thoughtful. It wouldn't be easy. The old partner had moved away from town, and many of the people involved in the case were no longer around. "It's going to be complicated, Tyler. A lot of time has passed." "I know, but I need to try. My grandma deserves this." "All right, let's see what we can do." Michael began to investigate. He talked to former employees of the workshop, searched for documents, tried to reconstruct the facts. Robert helped him, even hiring a specialized lawyer. What they found was shocking. The old partner's scheme was much bigger than they had imagined. Several other people had been harmed over the years. William was not the only victim. "Tyler," said Michael a few weeks later, "we got more than we expected." "What do you mean?" "Your grandfather won't just be cleared. He's going to be recognized as a hero. We discovered he tried to report a scheme that harmed dozens of people." Tyler's eyes shone. "Really?" "Really. And there's more. The city wants to name the street where you live after him." Tyler couldn't contain his emotion. He ran home to tell his grandmother. The tribute ceremony happened 3 months later. It was an emotional event that brought together hundreds of people at the town's cultural center. Mrs. Margaret, elegant in a blue dress that Michael had specially made for the occasion, was seated in the front row. Tyler, in a suit and tie, would speak on behalf of the family. The mayor read an official proclamation clearing William Johnson of all charges and recognizing his integrity of character. Several people who had been harmed by the scheme came up to the stage to speak about William. Frank, the auto parts seller, told how William had helped him at the start of his career. Mr. Charlie spoke about his colleagues' honesty and talent. Other mechanics from the area gave testimony. But the most moving moment was when Tyler took the stage. "My grandfather always told me that a man is measured by what he does, not by what people say he did," Tyler began with impressive maturity for his 10 years. "Today, the truth finally came out. But I want to say one thing. Even when everyone doubted him, my grandfather never lost his dignity. He taught me that doing the right thing doesn't depend on recognition." Tyler looked at Michael in the audience. "I also want to thank Mr. Michael, who had the courage to admit his mistakes and do what was right. My grandfather always said, it's never too late to do the right thing." The audience gave a standing ovation. Grandma Margaret was crying with emotion, but now they were tears of pride and joy. After the ceremony, a television reporter interviewed Tyler. "Tyler, what do you plan to do in the future?" "I want to study engineering, graduate, and open a technical school here in the region. I want to teach other young people like my grandfather taught me." "And what's the most important lesson your grandfather taught you?" Tyler thought for a moment. "That every machine wants to work well, every problem has a solution, and every person deserves a second chance." 2 years had passed since that day on the highway. Tyler, now 11 years old, had become a role model not only in mechanics but in all aspects of life. Michael's workshop was thriving, employing 12 people from the community. Tyler coordinated a training program for young people, teaching not only mechanical techniques, but also values like honesty and perseverance. Grandma Margaret had regained her health and become an active figure in the community. She coordinated a group of seniors who told stories to children, always emphasizing the importance of honesty and hard work. Michael and his wife Nancy had become practically family to Tyler and Grandma Margaret. They had dinner together every Friday, and Michael never missed his weekly visits. Robert had created a foundation that offered scholarships to talented young people from underprivileged communities. Tyler was the first recipient, but soon others followed. On a sunny Friday afternoon, Tyler was in the workshop working on a special project, restoring an old car that had belonged to his grandfather. "Tyler," called Michael, "there's someone here to see you." Tyler looked and saw an elegant, middle-aged woman accompanied by a man in a suit. "Tyler Johnson?" asked the woman. "That's me. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Parker. I'm the director of the New York Institute of Technology." This is Professor Daniel, our Special Projects Coordinator. Tyler wiped his hands and greeted the visitors. We came here because of your automotive diagnostic system project, said Professor Daniel. Tyler had developed, with the help of his science teacher, a simple but effective system to diagnose engine problems using only sound. It was all based on what he had learned from watching his grandfather. We want to invite you to present your project at the National Science Fair, said Dr. Elizabeth. Tyler's eyes lit up. Really? Very much so, much. And there's more. If the project is well received, we want to offer you a full scholarship to study at our institute when you finish high school. Tyler looked at Michael, who was smiling proudly. Can I think about it? Of course, but why the hesitation? It's just that I have commitments here, with my grandmother, with the community, with the people who depend on me. Dr. Elizabeth smiled. Tyler, that's exactly the attitude we look for in our students, responsibility and commitment to the community. And if I accept, will I be able to come back here after I graduate? Not only can you, but we hope you will. We want to train engineers who make a difference in their communities. Tyler took a deep breath. Then I accept. The news spread quickly through the neighborhood. It was a source of pride for the entire community to have one of their young people recognized nationally. On the day of the presentation at the National Science Fair, Tyler did not go alone. Michael, Robert, Mrs. Margaret, Mr. Charlie, and several neighbors made the trip to support him. Tyler's project was simple in appearance, but revolutionary in concept. He had created a system that allowed diagnosing engine problems with 95% accuracy using only sound analysis, without expensive equipment. How did you come up with this idea? Asked one of the judges. My grandfather taught me that every engine has its own voice. When something is wrong, it changes the way it speaks. I just created a way for other people to understand that language. The project won first place in the technological innovation category. But for Tyler, the most important prize was seeing the pride on his grandmother's face when he dedicated the victory to the memory of his grandfather. During the awards ceremony, Tyler called Michael to the stage. I want to share this award with someone very special, Tyler said into the microphone. Mr. Michael is not my father, but he is my godfather at heart. He taught me that it is never too late to do what is right, and that every mistake can be corrected with sincerity and dedication. Michael went up on stage with teary eyes. Tyler hugged him tightly and whispered, "Thank you for giving me the chance you didn't give my grandfather. Thank you for fixing more than cars. Thank you for fixing our family." The hug between the two moved the entire audience. There was living proof that redemption is possible, that the mistakes of the past can be turned into opportunities for the future. After the award ceremony, a journalist interviewed Tyler for a special report. Tyler, what was the most important moment of your life? He thought for a moment. The day I found two rich men with a broken car on the road. Not because they helped me, but because they gave me the opportunity to show that everyone deserves a chance, regardless of age or appearance. And what advice would you give to other children in your situation? Never give up on your dreams, even when life gets tough, and remember that every machine wants to work well, including our dreams. Sometimes they just need someone who understands how to fix them. And for the adults, Tyler looked directly at the camera. Don't judge people by their appearance. That dirty boy on the street might have the solution to your problems, and always remember, it is never too late to do the right thing. The report aired on a Sunday night and moved millions of people across the country. The phone at Michael's shop did not stop ringing, with people wanting to meet Tyler and the project he was developing. But for Tyler, the best part of all that fame was being able to help even more people. With the visibility he gained, he secured resources to expand the training program and create a network of community workshops. Mrs. Margaret, now 72 years old, had become a kind of matriarch of the community. She coordinated several social initiatives and was always consulted when someone needed advice. "Grandma," Tyler said one night while they were having dinner, "do you think Grandpa would be proud of me?" "My dear grandson, your grandfather is proud, I'm sure of it. You not only followed in his footsteps, but you also blazed new trails. Sometimes I feel like he is here, guiding me. He is, through the values he taught you, through the love he planted in your heart. Tyler smiled and looked at the photo of his grandfather, which now occupied a place of honor in the new house that Michael had helped them buy. Grandpa, thank you for teaching me that every machine wants to work well. Thank you for showing me that honesty is worth more than any money. And thank you for giving me such a special grandmother. In the last week of December, Michael Thompson's workshop organized a get-together party. The entire community that had been impacted by Tyler's story was present. The neighbors he had helped, the young people who now worked at the workshop, the school teachers, and even people from other cities who had heard about the project. Tyler, now 12 years old and about to enter high school, was unrecognizable from that barefoot, dirty boy who had appeared on the road 3 years earlier, but one thing remained the same: his genuine smile and his desire to help others. "Tyler," said Michael during the party, "do you have any regrets about these past few years?" "Just one," replied Tyler. "What?" "That I didn't find you all sooner. Imagine how many cars I could have fixed, how many people I could have helped." Everyone laughed. It was typical of Tyler to always think of others before himself. "And what are your plans for the future?" asked Robert Wilson. "I'm going to finish high school, study engineering, and then come back here to create the best technical school in the country. I want other young people to have the same opportunities I had." "And what do you hope to leave as a legacy?" Tyler got serious for a moment. "I want people to remember that everyone has value, every problem has a solution, and every machine wants to work well, including the human heart." Grandma Margaret, who was sitting next to her grandson, held his hand affectionately. "My grandson, you've already left a legacy. You showed that kindness exists, that honesty pays off, and that it's never too late to start over. We did all this together, Grandma. You, me, Mr. Michael, Robert, the whole community. Alone, I wouldn't have accomplished anything." Michael stood up and raised his glass of soda. "I want to make a toast to Tyler, who taught us that a person's size isn't measured by height, but by the greatness of their heart. To William, who, even though he's no longer here, continues to inspire through his grandson. And to Mrs. Margaret, who raised an extraordinary boy." Everyone stood up and toasted. It was the end of a cycle, but also the beginning of many others. After the party, when everyone had left, Tyler and Mrs. Margaret stayed alone in the workshop for a few minutes. "Grandma, can I ask you a question?" "Always, my grandson." "Do you think I managed to honor Grandpa's memory?" Mrs. Margaret hugged her grandson tightly. "Tyler, you not only honored his memory, you proved that the love and values he planted in you bore fruit far beyond what he could have dreamed." "How so?" "Your grandfather helped people by fixing their machines. You're helping people by fixing their lives, their dreams, their hopes." Tyler smiled, finally fully understanding the scope of his journey. "So we did it, right, Grandma? We managed to show that every machine wants to work well, including the machine of life." "We did, my grandson. And this is just the beginning." They walked hand in hand to Michael's Cadillac, which was waiting to take them home. In the back seat, Tyler looked out the window and saw the street sign where they lived: William Johnson Street, honest mechanic and good man. At that moment, Tyler felt he had fulfilled his most important mission, to ensure that his grandfather's honesty and character were remembered forever. And as the car drove down the street with his grandfather's name, Tyler made a silent promise. Whenever someone needed help, whenever a machine of life was broken, he would be there to fix it. After all, as his grandfather William would say, every machine wants to work well, and every human heart does too. End of story. So, what did you think of this touching story? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you know someone like Tyler, who has a huge heart despite the difficulties. Your like and subscription to the channel help us keep bringing heartwarming stories.